News. Okay, we're good to go, y'all. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on paper 112, Personality Survival. And we might be able to finish this tonight. I'm not sure if we'll get through it or not, but we're on section 7. If you're using the original book, it's page 1237, paragraph 3, or paper 112 in the other books, section 7, paragraph 1. Let's say a little prayer and we'll get started for tonight. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. We thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share this wonderful revelation with the world. We thank you that you have brought this to us at this particular period of time that we might learn and prepare ourselves for the mansion worlds and for those worlds to come and for your plan in our life. And we feel so fortunate that you have provided this for us and given us an opportunity to learn it. We thank you for this, our many blessings, and we say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
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 Okay, everybody, let's let Diane start it.
7. Adjuster fusion. Thought adjuster fusion imparts eternal actualities to personality, which were previously only potential. Among these new endowments may be mentioned fixation of divinity quality, past eternity experience and memory, immortality, and a phase of qualified potential absoluteness.
Okay, let's get right into the heavy duty stuff here.
Let's jumping in.
Yeah.
All right. First, it starts talking about when we fuse with our thought adjuster, it imparts eternal actualities. And this is important to personality, which were previously only potential. What are they talking about there? If you think about it, the thought adjuster during your human life, that father fragment that dwells within you, takes all your experiences and makes it into a spiritual counterpart in your soul. Okay, that's why I keep saying the soul is like a sleeping embryo. When it wakes up on the mansion world, it's got all this information that the thought adjuster has put in it, but when it puts it in it, it is just potentially something that will happen in the future. You see that? Okay, that's why they call it potentialities. Okay, so he takes all your experiences, your spiritual experiences, which are potentials for your future life. And then when you awaken on the mansion world, those potentials turn into what? Actualities, because it's your soul that awakens at that point, right? So you become you as your new soul. That embryo soul starts out fresh, and all those things that will potential are actuals at that point, from that point on, right? Okay, so that's what they're talking about. And they say some of these endowments too are fixation of divinity quality. What are they saying there? In other words, the thought adjuster and the divinity associated with that father fragment, okay, the quality of that is fixed within you when you fuse forevermore. So what does that make you? That makes you a divine being, a son or daughter of God. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. It also gives you the past eternity experience and memory. So all the memory that thought adjuster possesses before he came to indwell you becomes part of your possession of memory patterns at this point. And the thought adjuster reveals more and more of this memory to you as you progress along, as you can handle it. Okay. So that's what this past memory is. it also gives you immortality. What do you think it is that makes you immortal? Just because you survive death and you wake up on the mansion world, that does not make you immortal, does it? You're
That's
still a
right.
Morontia being. You're not considered an immortal being at that point. You do not become immortal until you fuse with that father fragment. And at that point, because of the divinity of God fusing with you, then you become immortal for that point on out throughout all eternity. Now, being that's the case, because of that immortality, you qualified for potential absoluteness. What's that saying? In other words, because you're immortal, you have the potential of staying alive throughout all eternity. And when we get to go out into the outer space levels into the future, and the divinity of absoluteness starts to come into fruition, we are there and we are qualified for that experience of absoluteness at that point. Okay? That makes sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I didn't know.
Does
Yeah,
does
go ahead.
absoluteness in effect mean a sort of godlike quality, or?
Yes, it does, Lynch. It's not only that, it's part of the absoluteness of the triunity of the three absolutes, the deity absolute, the universal absolute, and the unqualified absolute. So,
Mhm.
what it's actually talking about is we become part of that trinity of absoluteness because we live such a long, long time. We become part of that fruition of those three. And I wish I had thought about it. I would have stuck up a picture of it. But the three absolutes, the qualified absolute, the universal absolute, and unqualified absolute, are the other three absolutes of the seven of God the Father. Okay, so that's what allows us to become part of that absoluteness because we have a fragment of God the Father. So I don't know if y'all remember me in teaching this a long time ago, but God's seven absolutes, which is the universal Father, the Son, and the conjoint actor of the infinite Spirit, plus paradise. Those are four of the absolutes. The other three absolutes are the qualified, universal, and unqualified. And it's those last three that helps cause all the universes, the physical universes, local universes, to come into being.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
all these universes that are in the outer space levels are coming into being are because of these three other absolutes, especially the unqualified absolute, because without the unqualified absolute, it could never pull the material away from nether paradise to have the material to create those universes.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, how this is involved is because of that father fragment within us, we can participate into the future and of these outer space levels being created because we are part of the divinity of God. So if you think about it, it kind of works this way. God the Father entails all seven of those absolutes, right? And since God the Father entails all seven of those absolutes, and we have a fragment of God the Father, what does that mean? That means we participate in the seven absolutes.
Wow.
Pretty
Hmm.
heavy duty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Big jump. All right. So let's go on to the next one. Rodney, would you take the next one for us, please?
Yes. When your earthly course in temporary form has been run, you are to awaken on the shores of a better world, and eventually you will be united with your faithful adjuster in an eternal embrace. And this fusion constitutes the mystery of making God and man one. The mystery of finite creature evolution. But it is entirely true, eternally true. Fusion is the secret of the sacred sphere of Ascendington, and no creature, save those who have experienced fusion with the spirit of deity, can comprehend the true meaning of the actual values, which are conjoined when the identity of a creature of time becomes eternally one with the spirit of paradise deity.
Okay, so you remember when Jesus talks about us awakening on better worlds, right? You know, my Father has many mansions, right? Just what Jesus taught us from the New Testament, right? That we were taught all these years from the New Testament. All right. Now, it also says in here that fusion itself, that fusion with that Father fragment, is the secret of the sphere of Ascendington. Why is it not the secret of the sphere of Divinington? Because we know that the thought adjusters come from where? Divinington.
Divinington.
Right? But when we fuse, it becomes the secret of Ascendington, because we are, and it will be, an ascending son of God at that point. Okay? So it switches, it leaves Divinington that last time when it comes to be with us, and it never returns to Divinington again, because we are not allowed on Divinington, are we? We're not thought adjusters.
Correct.
And that means the thought adjuster is no longer allowed on Divinington. And it's going to talk about this in just a minute, how they're not sure what happens to the registry on Divinington of that thought adjuster, but we'll get to that in a second. But what it's telling us here, that the only beings that can really attest to what actual values happen when you fuse with the adjuster are those beings that have experienced that thing of fusion, right? It's only those beings that's done it that actually understands the value. Just like, if you think about it, the sons of God, the creator sons, are the only ones that understand the mystery of the bestowals. And that comes from what? Ascendington, right? Sons of God. Okay. So each sphere in those satellites of God have different purposes, and this is how this fits in, right? But once we fuse, we will become eternally one with the spirit of paradise deity. In this case, the thought adjuster comes from the Father, right? Now, let me ask you something. If that's the case with the thought adjuster, what about those beings that fuse with the sun fragment or spirit fragment? Then they won't be in the same place or allowed to the same place as those who are Father fused. You see that? Okay, because they will be either sun fused or spirit fused. They would go a totally different place, which would be on the spirit worlds. Okay. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Yes.
Hi, Pam.
Fusion with the adjuster is usually affected while the ascender is resident within his local system. It may occur on the planet of nativity as a transcendence of natural death. It may take place on any one of the mansion worlds or on the headquarters of the system. It may even be delayed until the time of the constellation sojourn, or in special instances, it may not be consummated until the ascender is on the local universe capital.
Holy
Okay. Let's think about this for now, but because that's a wide range, isn't it? They teach us that in the mansion world, it's usually about the fifth mansion world, we have removed all the marks of the beast or barbarianism. So usually by about the fifth mansion world, we fuse with the adjusters, right? On average. But what I want to point out is several things out of this. First of all, it can occur on your native planet, which would be Urantia from us, as a transcendence of natural death. What are they saying? In other words, when you die naturally, the ancients of days can determine, since you are of advanced standing, you've reached at least the third psychic circle, so you're going to go on to the mansion worlds, but the ancients of days can decide you have reached that point of adjuster fusion, and the only thing that's kept you from fusing in the flesh is the statement from the ancients of days that it's time for your fusing. Okay, so many individuals, because they're on a higher spiritual level, when they die, they will automatically fuse when they awaken on the mansion world. So when they awaken on the mansion worlds, they will know that they are totally different than they were when they went to sleep in death. Okay, because at that point they'll have a new awareness of the Paradise Father's fragment that's been put within them, and it has become part of them. And at that point, even on that very first mansion world, they will be issued a new name. Why? Because they will become permanent sons and daughters of God. Okay, and that can happen at death and transcendence. All right, it can also happen on any of the mansion worlds in the process. But this is the interesting part about this paragraph. It could be delayed until your constellation sojourn. So that means you will have gone all the way through the system capital, all those worlds, and in the constellation sojourn, you could be on any of the 570 types of Morontia beings and be fused. Okay. Another point is it may not actually be consummated until you're ascender on the local universe capital of what? What would that be?
Yeah.
Jerusalem. Not
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Where's Jesus?
Reversa?
Huh? Not Uversa. That's too far. You're going too far. How about
Oh,
Salvington?
Salvington, yes.
Salvington, right? That's the local universe capital. All right. Now think about this. You say, why would someone not fuse that long? Why would they go through all those changes and not fuse? How about this? How about if you got to the mansion worlds and those beings that's in charge of you have picked you out for a specific function or project which you would be involved in that would not allow you to be a fused being. Okay.
Right.
What's a good example of that? The Calagassa 100, right? They could not be fused beings and become part of the volunteers for the Calagassa 100, could they?
Do you have an option?
Huh?
Do you have an option?
Apparently you do.
Then I would say no.
Yeah, I would too. I don't want to be anywhere where I don't have my thought adjuster. But let me give you another good example of that. How about if you were a Adam and Eve and you finished your planet, everything you needed to do in your planet reached light and life. They gave you a thought adjuster and you went on to the mansion worlds. And since you were already of advanced standing because of your experience as an Adam and Eve, what if they had some other project they wanted you to do before you actually fused with your adjuster? In that case, you might go all the way up to the local universe capital before you actually fused. You see what I'm saying? So there's exceptions to everything. That's just what example I wanted to bring out so that, go, how would you not have fused before you went to the local universe capital? So that would be an option of choice probably you would have to make. And if you said, no, I want to go ahead and fuse with my adjuster, then you couldn't take on that responsibility, could you? Because once you fused with that adjuster, there's no going back. Okay?
Roger,
Yeah.
once we leave the local universe, we're spirit, correct?
Right. Right. When we lose,
We're
when
no
we
longer
leave the
Morontia.
local universe, you remember when we hit the mansion worlds were Morontia. 570 variations or different Morontia beings before we get to the capital, right? When we get to the local universe capital and we stand before Jesus and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant, at that point you get your papers to be considered a full-fledged first stage spirit. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah. And when you get to that point, at that point, you go from a Morontia being with a Morontia body to a spirit being. So you're translated from the Morontia being to a full-fledged spirit being. And then you can go out and go on the minor and major sector and go on to Uversa for the universe, the super universe experience, right? You cannot leave, though, the local universe without being at least a full-fledged first stage spirit being. Okay. Yeah. So if it becomes time for you to leave the local universe, then you will be a full-fledged spirit being, and you will have stood directly in front of the Creator Son, Michael, or Jesus.
So in other words, it would be impossible to become spirit without fusing with your adjuster.
That's the whole point, Rodney. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. There aren't any non-adjuster fuse beings out in the super universe. Make sense?
Yeah.
So in other words, to go to the super universe, you have to have been translated to a full-fledged spirit. Right?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So if, we were on the local universe headquarters and, all these spirits were hanging around and said, we're going to go over to someplace out in the local, out in super universe tonight. You want to go? And you said, no, I can't. I'm still a Morontia being. Yeah.
My mommy won't let me.
My mommy won't let me. The archangels will come and get me and bring me home. Right.
And paddle me.
That's right. No, 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 no. All right. Jane, would you take the next one?
Okay. When fusion with the adjuster has been affected, there can be no future danger to the eternal career of such a personality. Celestial beings are tested throughout a long experience, but mortals pass through a relatively short and intensive testing on the evolutionary and Morontia worlds.
Okay, so if you read this paragraph correctly, you'd think that we're tested all the way through all the finite and the Morontia world, but when we get to the super universe, it's no longer a short, intensive test. It's just the experience of living at that point, right? And progressing onward. Makes sense? Right? Dear, did you need those up there? I keep forgetting to change it. I'm not going to change it unless you need it.
No, it's fine because I can see the bottom.
Okay, all right. Pam, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. Fusion with the adjuster never occurs until the mandates of the super universe have pronounced that the human nature has made a final and irrevocable choice for the eternal career. This is the at-onement authorization, which, when issued, constitutes the clearance authority for the fused personality eventually to leave the confines of the local universe to proceed sometime to the headquarters of the super universe, from which point the pilgrim of time will, in the distant future, Ensekanafim.
In Sekanafem.
Ensekanafim.
Right. Yeah.
For the long flight to the central universe of Vavona and the deity adventure.
Okay. I like this statement is at the at-onement authorization. Okay. In other words, that authorization declares that you are one with your thought adjuster. Your personality and your thought adjuster are one. At-onement authorization. In other words, you will never, ever separate again. Okay, so that's what that at-onement authorization, right? And this lets them know that you are authorized at some point into the future to be allowed to go to the super universe and then to Uverse and eventually on to Havona sooner or later, right? Because you've committed. That's what that final choice is I keep talking about, Gary.
Once you fuse with your thought adjuster, you're on an eternal path because you cannot fail because you're a part of God and God's part of you.
That's right. And that's why there are no record of ever of any fused individual rebelling against God. So remember,
it would be suicidal for God.
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah, God's not going to rebel against himself, right?
It would be impossible.
It'd be impossible. So, that's why there was not a single fused mortal lost during the Lucifer rebellion, because you would never rebel against yourself, against the celestial government, right? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, let's go on. Gary?
On the evolutionary world's selfhood is material. It is a thing in the universe, and as such is subject to the laws of material existence. It is a fact in time and is responsive to the vicissitudes thereof. Survival decisions must here be formulated. In the Morontia state, the self has become a new and more enduring universe reality, and its continuing growth is predicated on its increasing atonement to the mind and spirit circuits of the universes.
Let me interrupt you there, Gary. That's attunement. I don't want people to think we're confusing with the atonement doctrine.
Attunement.
Okay. Attunement, yeah.
I did say it. No, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Survival decisions are now being confirmed. When the self contains a spiritual level, it has become a secure value in the universe. And this new value is predicated upon the fact that survival decisions have been made, which fact has been witnessed by eternal fusion with the thought adjuster. And having achieved the status of a true universe value, the creature becomes liberated in potential for the seeking of the highest verse value, God.
Universe value, God. So you will someday stand before God the Father, sooner or later. Okay. So basically what they're saying here is in the material existence, we're responsive to all the things that's going on around us in the world, right? I mean, that's just all there. It's because we're always influenced by the physical, right? But you can make a final decision that you will someday fuse with your adjuster, even in the material form, and they call that a betrothal, right? So you're betrothed to the thought adjuster for the future. And as far as the thought adjuster is concerned, since you've made that decision, It will eventually happen. There's nothing going to stop it. Okay. But if you don't make that decision of that at-onement, survival decisions must be formulated in the Morontia levels. There's no way around that. Sooner or later in the Morontia state, you have to make a decision of fusing with the thought adjuster, because you can't get out of the Morontia existence without doing it. Does that make sense?
If you don't, you then die?
Not necessarily die, but they're going to keep trying to rehabilitate you over and over until you understand. Right? And if eventually you don't do that, you would be considered in what? Rebellion. And in that case, yes, you would die. Make sense? All right. Then it goes on telling us that as we grow through the attunement and the mind circuits of the universes, okay, in the Morontia form, the survival decisions that we made are now being confirmed, and just before you go into the spiritual level, it has to be that survival has been made, or a decision has been made, and it's confirmed by fusion with the adjuster. And by doing that, you're guaranteed at some time in the future to stand before God the Father, right? Because that's what we do.
It's your ticket.
It's your ticket out, as they say. I have my ticket, I can go on. All right. This is a short one. I'll read it, and then Diane can take the next one. Such fused beings are twofold in their universe reactions. They are discrete Morontia individuals, not altogether unlike seraphim, like angels, right? Because we're about on the same level. And they are also beings in potential on the order of paradise finaliters. Why is it the paradise finaliters? Because after you fused and you stand before God the Father, you go into the finaliter course. So your potential is to become a finaliter. And that's the goal of the thought adjuster. And that's the goal of us as we go up. Right? All right. Diane, would you take the next one?
But the fused individual is really one personality, one being, whose unity defies all attempts at analysis by any intelligence of the universes. And so, having passed the tribunals of the local universe from the lowest to the highest, none of which have been able to identify man or adjuster, the one apart from the other, you shall finally be taken before the sovereign of Nebadon, your local universe father. And there, at the hand of the very being whose creative fatherhood in this universe of time has made possible the fact of your life, you will be granted those credentials which entitle you eventually to proceed upon your super universe career in quest of the universal father.
Roger, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry. So that gives you the ticket, when you stand before Jesus, that gives you the ticket that you're qualified to go on for the adventure to stand eventually before the Universal Father.
Okay? I just got a vision or hunch or hint that as you're doing this matriculation, and as you become one with your thought adjuster and ascend with the intention of doing God's will and being like God, that it becomes a everyday thing. And it's nothing like, oh, am I going to be hit the golden wheel and say be told you're a finaliter. I think to become a finaliter, the goal of becoming a finaliter becomes secondary to the doing of God's will and your individual progress in attaining godlike status. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would take it one step further, Gary, and that is in this life, our goal is to become part of the habit of the will of God. Okay. And what in the heck is he talking about? Right. Our life in the material sense is a group of reactions we make to our environment around us, is it not? You know,
Mm.
and the habit of God is automatically deciding to do God's will in your life automatically over and over and over again, so that God's will becomes such a habit in your life, you will not move away from God's will ever. Okay,
What you're
that's
saying
the
is God's will becomes your will be through habit.
habit. That's it, right? That's why I call it the habit of God. All right, because his will becomes your will constantly. You do it over and over and over and over again. So your will stops getting in the way of God's will coming through you, in essence. And that's the biggest problem with human beings is we want to fight with what we know already is right. Okay. And that's what we do all the way through our life. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And if you get into the habit of God, you won't have to go through that struggle day after day after day. Well, do I do it this way or do I do it that way? You know, because God's habit becomes such a part of you that you automatically default to God's will. Does that make sense? Tell me I'm crazy, y'all.
No,
You're crazy.
Okay.
I just wanted to make you satisfied.
Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying though here?
yes,
It becomes such a habit that you do God's will automatically, right? And that steps into this next paragraph. Let's read the next paragraph and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. Rodney, would you take the next one?
yes. As the triumph adjuster, one personality by the magnificent service to humanity, or has the valiant human acquired immortality through sincere efforts to achieve adjuster likeness? That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It is neither, but they together have achieved the evolution of a member of one of the unique orders of the ascending personalities of the Supreme, one who will ever be found serviceable, faithful, and efficient, a candidate for further growth and development, ever ranging upward and never ceasing the supernal ascent until the 7 circuits of Havana have been traversed, and the one-time soul of earthly origin stands in worshipful recognition of the actual personality of the Father on paradise. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, this is pretty heavy, isn't it? So
Mhm.
what they're asking is this: Did the adjuster triumph over the human, or did the human triumph over the adjuster? It's neither,
Yeah.
is it? Neither one. It's us allowing the will of God to come through us as a habit so much that the two become one. And that's what happens in fusion too. The two minds are no longer two minds. The two minds are one mind. It's like a marriage, is it not? When the two minds come together, whatever one mind thinks, the other mind thinks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they're talking about here. You've accepted the will of God, and the will of God has accepted you accepting the will of God. So you are always become serviceable to the experiential part of God, the supreme, to do what's always going to be right because you're in the habit of doing that. Right? No doubt about it.
It's a wonderful freedom from conflict.
Yes.
What I was going to say.
Yeah.
There's no more chaos.
There's no chaos. You're not in two minds. You're not fighting in your own mind constantly any longer, right? Because you've given in to the right way to do things, right? It's just that simple. Okay. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. Throughout all this magnificent ascent, the thought adjuster is the divine pledge of the future and full spiritual stabilization of the ascending mortal. Meanwhile, the presence of the mortal free will affords the adjuster an eternal channel for the liberation of the divine and infinite nature. Now have these two identities become one. No event of time or of eternity can ever separate man and adjuster. They are inseparable, eternally fused.
So they become of one mind. They become of one personality and one being, right?
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, it is beautiful.
Um,
Jane, yeah, Rodney.
Once we fuse, are we known by a different? Are we known differently?
Yeah, we have a new name. We have the name given to us by God the Father. Yeah.
Finaliters.
No, not at that point. You don't become finaliters until you stand before God.
Right. Okay.
Okay, once you stand before God, you're introduced before God, you recognize God the Father, that's when you become finaliters. They call it a divinity embrace, right? Because you're embraced by God as someone who has stayed the course, went the whole process, and when you come out the other side, you'll always be true to your source, which is God.
And however, through eternity, we will always be considered man.
More, well, yes, we'll be. Well, no, not really, because we'll be considered. We'll be considered. That's why they call us a finaliter. We're both man and God.
Correct.
Right? Because we're sons of God. Just like Jesus of Nazareth is always known as what? The Son of Man and the Son of God. Even though he's gone back to the local universe as the head of the God of the local universe, he's still titled Son of Man, Son of God, because he's earned that right through experience. Right?
Correct.
So we will always be known as fused mortal, right? Or finaliters. That's what it means. Right? Okay. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. On the adjuster fusion worlds, the destiny of the mystery monitor is identical with that of the ascending mortal, the paradise core of finality, and neither adjuster nor mortal can attain that unique goal without the full cooperation and faithful help of the other. This extraordinary partnership is one of the most engrossing and amazing of all the cosmic phenomena of this universe age.
Okay,
Wow.
let me stick a monkey wrench in here. You all know how I like to do that occasionally, right?
Mm.
What if you're a personalized adjuster? There's personalized adjusters in the core of finality, right? Think about it, right? How does it work for them? Because they are given the personality from an experience of another being, like a Melchizedek, or a creator sign, or a magisterial sign. So that builds up a soul of possibility, does it not? Okay. So if that's the case, that adjuster fuse with the personality provided from the experience of another being. And they can become part of the core finality. Make sense? There's answers for everything. They thought it out so well, it's almost unbelievable. Okay, Pam, would you take the next one for me, please?
Yeah. From the time of adjuster fusion, the status of the ascender is that of the evolutionary creature. The human member was the first to enjoy personality and therefore outranks the adjuster in all matters concerned with the recognition of personality. The paradise headquarters of this fused being is Ascendington, not Divinington. And this unique combination of God and man ranks as an ascending mortal all the way up to the core of the finality.
Okay, so we know that their headquarters is Ascendington, not Divinington. We talked about that, right? All right. And let's go on to the next one because this all fits in together. Gary, oh, we lost Gary. Okay, well, I'll take this one, then I need to take the next one. When once an adjuster fuses with an ascending mortal, the number of that adjuster is stricken from the records of the super universe. What happens on the records of Divinington, I do not know, but I surmise that the registry of that adjuster is removed to the secret circles of the inner courts of Grand Fonda, the first ascender, the acting head of the core of finality. So they believe that that adjuster's number is stricken and is only known by Grand Fonda's records itself, right?
That's so amazing.
With adjuster fusion, the Universal Father has completed his promise of the gift of himself to his material creatures. He has fulfilled the promise and consummated the plan of the eternal bestowal of divinity upon humanity. Now begins the human attempt to realize and to actualize the limitless possibilities that are inherent in the supernal partnership with God, which has thus factualized.
Okay, because
Wow.
so since all this has happened,
You're muted.
when this happened, we have to come to the grips with the fact that when this happens, we are not only ourselves anymore, we're a fused mortal, so we're part of deity and sons of God, right? Makes sense? All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. The present known destiny of surviving mortals is the paradise core of the finality. This is also the goal of destiny for all thought adjusters who become joined in the eternal union with the mortal companions. At present, the paradise finaliters are working throughout the grand universe in many undertakings, but we all conjecture that they will have other and even more supernal tasks to perform in the distant future after the 7 super universes have become settled in light and life, and when the finite God has finally emerged from the mystery which now surrounds the supreme deity.
Okay, so becoming fused with all these mortals, God the Father gains experience in each and every mortal, doesn't he?
Correct.
Okay. And since God the Father gains experience in each and every mortal, all that experience also goes into the supreme. This is what they're talking about, the supreme deity. So that experience goes into the supreme, and as it goes into the supreme, it widens God's finite experience, right? That in which he can't experience without the finite beings.
It's a yin yang
It's
situation.
a yin yang situation. You got that right.
Mhm.
Okay. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. You have been instructed to a certain extent about the organization and personnel of the central universe, the super universes, and the local universes. You have been told something about the character and origin of some of the various personalities who now rule these far flung creations. You have also been informed that there are in the process of organization vast galaxies of universes far out beyond the periphery of the grand universe in the first outer space level. It has also been intimated in the course of these narratives that the Supreme Being is to disclose his unrevealed tertiary function in these now uncharted regions of outer space. And you have also been told that the finaliters of the Paradise Core are the experiential children of the Supreme.
So the idea is this: because we're the experiential children of the Supreme, it makes sense that they would use us to go out and work in these outer space galaxies. Now, keep this in mind. I just did the history of Urantia again on the reading the Urantia book papers this week. And the things that really struck me is this: it takes hundreds of millions to billions of years for a planet to evolve to the point of even having the life force, the life plasm put in it. Okay, hundreds of millions of years. We're not talking a couple weeks, right? So, by the time we get to be finaliters, maybe one planet will have evolved to the point. So we got lots of time, right? We have to change our way of thinking from such finite beings to super finite beings. All right.
Can you go back one tile where we was?
Yeah. Hang on.
I have the super being is to disclose his unrevealed tertiary function. What's that mean?
The supreme being.
The
That's,
supreme being is what's the
yeah.
tertiary function?
He's got functions other than just taking in all the experience of all mortals. That's what they're talking about. There's other functions for the supreme being because there's going to be a supreme ultimate eventually, the eventuated ultimate being, and there's going to be the absolute being out into the outer space level. So these tertiary functions involved with the supreme being are things we don't only not know about, they don't even know how to teach us about it.
So basically, he's saying God is also growing as we grow.
He grows as we grow, and it's going to continue onward and onward and onward and onward, expanding onward and outward forever and ever until the end of time. Well, there is no end of time, but that's just a state. Right.
One of the definitions for tertiary is third in place.
Yeah.
Order, degree, or rank.
Right. So it's things that's coming in the future we don't know about, and they don't really know how to tell us about. Right. Okay. Let's go on. Who's up? Pam, I think you're up.
Yeah. We believe that the mortals of Adjuster Fusion, together with their Finaliter associates, are destined to function in some manner in the administration of the universe of the first outer space level. We have not the slightest doubt that in due time these enormous galaxies will become inhabited universes. And we are equally convinced that among the administrators thereof will be found the paradise finaliters, whose natures are the cosmic consequences of the blending of creature and creator.
So since we have a father fragment in this that's going to blend with us, we become perfect administrators because we have a deity administrator and an experiential mortal administrator, the same being, right?
Wow.
Jane, did
Yeah.
I just skip over you?
No, you didn't. No, I
Okay.
did read in the right order.
Okay, excuse me if I did. I didn't know if I did or not.
No, you did
So
not. No,
we are
Roger.
the perfect beings are to move into the outer space level as administrators, both our mortal experience and our deified experience, right? Right. Gary, I think you're up again.
What an adventure. What a romance. Woo. A gigantic creation to be administered by the children of the Supreme, these personalized and humanized adjusters, these justerized and eternalized mortals, these mysterious combinations and eternal associations of the highest known manifestation of the essence of the first source and center, and the lowest form of intelligent life capable of comprehending and attaining the universal Father. We conceive that such amalgamated beings, such partnerships of creator and creature, will become superb rulers, matchless administrators, and understanding and sympathetic directors of any and all forms of intelligent life, which may come into existence throughout these future universe of the first outer space order. I
Okay,
like
so
that part where it said, and the lowest form of intelligent life capable of comprehending.
yeah, the lowest
Puts
part.
us in place, doesn't it?
I know, makes you want to run around and tell everybody, pull your pants up, act like a human being, don't act like you're an idiot, You're going to be administrator for Super Universe. Wow, at least act like you can handle it, It's going to be interesting to see what the future brings. Okay, I think we got one more paragraph. We do. Okay, let me take this last paragraph. It is true, it is. You mortals are of earthly animal origin. Your frame is indeed dust, but if you actually will, you will realize, you will really desire, surely the heritage of the ages is yours, and you shall someday serve throughout the universes in all true characters, children of the supreme God of experience, and divine sons of the paradise Father of all personalities, presented by a solitary messenger of Orvanton. So we will sometime in the future act as not only representations of the supreme God of experience, which is God the Supreme, but will also act as divine sons of the paradise Father of all personalities. What a responsibility, right? We have to act on both.
That's pretty high up. Do we get a star or something on our collar or something?
I'm sure we're going to get a lot of little stars along the way. We have to. We have to, right? Right. Okay. Let's see how much time we got. We got a minute. Good. Okay. Y'all, next Thursday, I believe, is the 4th. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
It's next Thursday, the 4th, right?
You're kidding.
Yeah.
I'll be in Charlotte.
Yeah, I was going to say we will not have a meeting next Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
The Thursday after that, we will start our universe study slides. Okay. And before that Thursday, I will probably send out a brand new set of slides. They'll be out there all the time, just like they are, but I want to make sure everybody's got the most current things. If y'all want to study anything different right now, all of them are current right now. But unless I find something else before we start and send it out, those should be the ones we're going to use. And let me do this. It's going to take us over. All right, it's going to take us over. Let me share the screen again for a second. And I'm going to move this up. I want to show you all this so that you'll know where to find these real quick. Let me just do it this way. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All the study link slides. You see this very first link at the very top on the left, right underneath
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
right? Says UB study slides. Under that link is all the slides for every paper we have.
Okay.
Okay. You can click any of these links and it will download the PPTX, I think it's called. But right here you see 2024 Universe Study and Deity Chart slides. You see that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if for some reason you don't get the email before 2 Thursdays from now, you can come here to any of the pages, and this is on both pages, the Atlanta Urantia Study Group and the Fifth Epochal, and you can click on that and it will download all the slides, and it's a lot of slides. The reason I'm showing you this is this. There are so many slides in this presentation that I cannot email some of y'all the slides
Okay.
because it's too big. Okay, so if you go out there and just click on this link, it'll download them to your computer. And if you do not have a program that you can look at PowerPoint slows, there's a program right here. You can download the program to do it. Okay,
Good to know.
is that efficient enough, y'all?
You're very efficient.
Thank you
Always.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we will start on this universe study program in 2 weeks. And I hope y'all will enjoy it because I'm going to enjoy teaching it again. I think it's the basis for everything in the book. And if you understand the basis as you go through these and read these slides over and over again, these things will come alive for you. They really will. Okay. And it's the same slides you find out all the way through the book that as we've gone through the slides, you've seen pictures of this and that, same exact ones. Okay.
So this is what you're going to do is teach us the basic understandings of the stuff we need to understand the book.
Yes, this is what I used to call it when we were doing it at Rodney's Hat. I called it the pre-forward class. Okay. It was the pre-forward. It's the classes we went to before we started studying the forward, because the forward is very, very difficult. Okay. And if you understand what I teach you in this, however long it takes, if you understand what I talk about in these slides, then you will slide through the forward and go, yeah, I got it. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. Right. Okay. And that's why we did it in the first place. You know, last time I thought it was going to take us 12 weeks. It took us 11 weeks. But I am going to explain it ad nauseum this time, y'all. So if y'all have questions, stop me and ask me. It's time to find your questions out is as we're going through this, because we're going to cover everything. If you got anything that's foggy to you, stop and say, I don't understand. You know, so. And this is, Gary, this is what I was talking about, the classes. You know, you were talking about what do I need to know to really learn to study the book. This is the classes that will help you study the book all the way through. Because I've incorporated some of the teachings of Jesus at the beginning of this time, so you can understand what Jesus is talking about too from the life of Christ. And if I find any more of those from the life of Christ, I need to stick in there. I won't hesitate to do that. So one class, I guarantee you, it's going to take us most of one class just to get through one of the Jesus slides. Okay. Because he goes through some very heavy stuff in his teachings, and people don't even know he taught this stuff, you know? So we need to know it. We really do. Okay. Let's, one more out, yeah. Let's say a little prayer and we'll quit for tonight. Father, thank you for bringing us together. Father, thank you for the opportunity to do this. Thank you for these people that come and listen to us every week. Thank you for the many comments we get. Thank you for those that are trying to understand your will and the way you want to do things and what makes our life even more rewarding. We can't tell you how much we're blessed by your presence in our life, and we can't tell you how much we're blessed by our Creator, Son Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. We thank you in his name. Amen.
Amen.
See y'all Tuesday.
Yes.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everybody.
You're
We'll
welcome.
see you
Take
all.
care. All right.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Love you.